Hi boys and girls, Course 2 folks. This is Lesson 1-7, Adding and Subtracting Integers. Our goal or our objectives today are to add and subtract integers and to solve problems involving integers. Okay, I started this once and made a few mistakes that were bothering me, so I'm starting over, so some of this is already filled out ahead of time. Okay, here are our key concepts. To add integers with the same sign. The sum of two positive integers is positive, while the sum of two negative integers is negative. Okay, so we see that 3 plus 5 is 8. So positive 3 plus positive 5 is positive 8. Negative 3 plus negative 5 is negative 8. So if you're adding all positives or all negatives, you get that same sign on your answer. You just add the absolute values or add the numbers and put your sum down with that sign. If we are adding integers with different signs, we look for the absolute value of each number and subtract the lesser absolute value from the greater absolute value. The sum then has the sign of the integer with the greater absolute value. So we have a couple of examples here. Negative 3 plus 5. The absolute values are 5 and negative 3. So I'm going to say 5 minus 3 gives me 2. So my number is 2. 2 will take on the sign of the number with the greater absolute value, which was 5, and 5 started out as positive. So it leaves my answer as positive 2. The second example, 3 plus negative 5, I still subtract 5 minus 3, subtract the absolute values. This time, and the larger absolute value is still 5, but the number that I started out with was negative 5. So my answer here is negative 5. I sort of think about this as having 3 positives and 5 negatives. Once I subtract them, if I started out with more negatives, my answer is going to remain negative. That's another kind of slightly different way to think about it. That's how that works, though. Now moving on to the rules for subtraction. To subtract integers, or to subtract an integer, add its opposite. So if I start out with 3 minus 5, that becomes 3 plus negative 5. So minus becomes plus. The 5 was positive. It's now negative in the rewrite. And now I do this new addition problem following my rules for integers. So the signs are opposite. I'll subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. Look back here. I got the absolute value of negative 5. It's the larger absolute value of those, and it started out negative, so it gives my answer the negative sign. So 3 minus 5 is equal to negative 2. I go over here, negative 3 minus 5. I'll add 5's opposite. So that is going to become negative 3 plus negative 5. In this case, I'm adding two negatives. So I add 5 plus 3 to get 8. Since they're both negative, it gives my answer the negative sign. So negative 3 plus negative 5 is 8. Or negative 3 minus 5 is 8. All of that means the same thing. Okay. We will practice and look at using these rules, but this is just the first pass through on what the rules are. All right, two numbers are additive inverses if their sum is 0. Okay, so for example, negative 7 plus 7 is equal to 0. Signs are opposite, so I would take absolute values and subtract. Okay, I don't know, neither is greater, neither absolute value is greater, so it's just 0. Okay, so that makes 7 and negative 7 opposites. Okay. All right. This example that we go through is going to show us how to use a number line using adding. So use a number line to find the sum -4 plus -2. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start at 0 and move 4 units left for -4. So we're going from 0 to -4. Stop there, look at my next one, plus -2. So we're going to move another 2 units to the left. So this illustrates how and why our sum, we move 4 to the left, 2 more to the left, our sum ends up being -6. So this is a very visual way of seeing how and why when we add -4 and -2, we get -6. Okay? You have a number line here. You can use that to help you get these answers. Again, you may do your quick checks now if you want to stop and pause the tape, or you can go on to the next page and then come back at the end. Okay. Here are some adding integer signs, and we will not use a number line in this case, but you can if you want to. We'll walk through without it though. Okay, so we want to find 24 plus -6. Since signs are opposite, we're going to take the absolute value of each integer. So the absolute value of the absolute value of 24 is 24. And the absolute value of -6 is 6. I'm going to subtract 6 from 24 because the absolute value of 6 is less than the absolute value of 24. So 24 minus 6 is 18. The sum has the same sign as 24 because it had the greater absolute value. So my final answer, in fact, is positive 18. And again, we usually don't write the positive sign with that. We just assume that a number is positive unless it has a negative sign with it. If it helps you once in a while to jot that down, if you're getting confused, it's fine. Okay. Now, we're going to subtract, and we've got a number line going here, -7 minus 2. So we're going to start at 0 and move 7 units left. So here's 0, move 7 units to the left. Okay, that stops us at 7. Then we're going to move left the opposite of 2, which is -2. Okay, so, or minus 2. Okay, so at here, and we're going to move 2, the opposite of 2. So we're moving 2 away from 2, which means to the left. We end up at -9. So what this tells us with what we were doing here, -7 minus 2 is the same as -7 plus -2. So -7 plus -2 is -9. Or -7 minus 2 is -9. Okay, and here is an application problem. Recorded temperatures at Amundsen Scott Station in Antarctica have ranged from a low of -89 degrees Fahrenheit to a high of -13 degrees Fahrenheit. Find the difference in the temperatures. Remember, difference means subtract. So we want to subtract -13 minus -89. So that becomes -13 plus 89. Okay, what we do is we add the opposite, following the definition of subtraction, add the opposite of -89, which is 89. When we simplify, remember that means we're going to take the absolute value of these two integers, which are 89 and 13, and subtract 13 from 89. 6, 7. So that gives us 76. So the difference in temperatures is 76 degrees. So if you started at -13 on the number line and moved to -18 on the number, -89 on the number line, there are 76 jumps in between them. Basically, that's what it's telling you. So the difference in temperature is 76 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, go ahead, and now you have these quick check questions as well. So be sure that by the next time you come to class, you have the quick check questions completed. Thank you and have a good evening. I will see you next time.